With the SWF ET1501C, we have several points that we need to oil and grease as well as clean. Right now, we are looking at the side of the machine and we see the cylinder arm along with the head. We see that on the cylinder arm there are oiling points. That is the tubular arm that we're talking about. And with the head, we are going to change the needle to needle number 1. So it's easier for us to get back there. We have 3 points on this arm that we need to oil. 2 which are marked with red, as we can see, one in the back and one in the front. And then we have another one that's all the way in the back that is not marked. The 2 in the back that are not marked need to be oiled about once a week, about 2 drops per oil. It's nice to have one of the pen oilers because they're a lot more precise, and it makes it easy to oil in those areas. So you just drop 1 or 2 drops, and in the front we will need to do that one a little more often than we need to do in the back. The one in the front, about every 8 hours, we will do 1 or 2 drops. And when we talk about time, we are talking about running time. Now we are looking at the front of the tubular arm. We can see that oiling point that we saw in the previous one right there. And what we need to do is we need to remove the needle plate. This needle plate has 2 screws in the back that we need to loosen. We can just take our tool and loosen that. We'll loosen one side and then we'll loosen the other. And after we have those loosened, we can then take our finger and kind of move it out of the way. The one in the front will stay screwed in. We don't need to unscrew that. So we can just take our finger and loosen that one and loosen the other one. After those are both out, we will put them to the side and we will remove the needle plate just by lifting it off. After removing that needle plate, you'll see there's some dust and debris in there that we need to clean. We want to clean that before we start oiling. We're going to remove the bobbin case and just pull that out. And the next thing we're going to do is take some canned air, or you can use an air compressor, and just blow out that dust and debris. So with the canned air, go ahead and shoot that. You can see that move around. And if we can't get all the dust out of there, we can use our brush and loosen that dust in there. And then take our canned air and go back in and clean that a bit more. So that brush will help loosen up that dirt. After we do that, the oiling point on the knife, you have a fixed knife and a movable knife. We will need to take our oiling pen and oil that area about once a week, just on either side of that movable knife. On that side, you can see just that little area, that little groove in there. You can go ahead and oil that on either side of it. So you can take your pen oiler, put it on either side, and that will help with the movable knife. So that is the movable knife, and there's also the fixed knife, which is the black one that you see on the right-hand side. Also, in your hook, you have some oiling points. You have 2 oiling points. You have one at the bottom where it looks like a little circle. It's actually a little pad. You will need to oil that, as well as this hook area right there, the race of the hook. So that little pad right there, as well as the race, and you will need to do 1 to 2 drops of oil for every 8 hours of running. And once you get that oil in there, it's good to run that machine a little bit, but without the head running or the head on, to move that oil around in there. Now you will also need to clean the bobbin case itself. So this bobbin case we just pulled out of there. We still have the bobbin in there, so we'll just pull that bobbin out. And we will take our canned air and go ahead and spray that out. After spraying that out, you could also take, if you see any debris or dust that's kind of hard to get out of there, you can also use your brush to kind of loosen that dirt up, and then use your can spray again. In addition, we need to clean the area right underneath this tension plate or this tension spring, and there's a screw right here. We do need to make sure that after we loosen that up a bit, that we need to tighten it back down and calibrate that tension for the bobbin. So I can just take my screwdriver and loosen that up a bit. So I've loosened that up. And I can just take a good old business card, slide it underneath that area and get any dirt out of there. Again, we want to make sure that we tighten that spring so you do have the adequate tension that you need for the bobbin. So after we're done with that, as well as the oiling of the hook area, we can place all the components back in, put the needle plate back on as we are finished with that area. Once we move the head over to needle number 1, you're going to see 3 places that need to be oiled once a week, 2 drops in each area. We have this little spot right here, just right on this bar, and that will need 2 drops once a week. You will also need 2 drops right in this slot right here, as well as here. So 2 drops here, 2 drops here, and 2 drops here once a week. You also have a bar right here that needs greasing about every 3 to 4 months. You take light grease and just put it over the top right in here as that machine is moved over to needle 1, so you can access that bar right there. Behind the top of the head on the shaft, you do have an oiling reservoir right here. You will need to oil that once a week, about 4 drops in that area once per week. That will move throughout the machine around the components as the machine runs. There's also a greasing point behind the machine on the color change cam, which is right here. You can grease this a couple of different ways. You can take these covers off with these screws and access that cam and lightly grease that about every 3 to 4 months. You can see this cam move as we do change the needles, and you'll also see that you can grease the other part of it and it will work itself into that cam. So let's change that to needle 15. And as we change that, we can see that cam move. And we're getting all the way over. And when we change that, you're going to see these right here where we can lightly grease the top and bottom on each side of the head as we move the head either to needle 15 or needle 1. We'll get a better angle of this, and you can see where we can just grease the top and the bottom, and it will work itself into that cam. So we are looking at the back of the head. The head is on needle number 15, so we can access these areas right here. So you can just do some light grease on the top And on the bottom, you can just spread it on here and it will work itself into the cam in the back here. While we are on the back of the machine, there's an oiling point that we need to oil about once a week. You can't get to it from the front of the machine, but if you look down in here, there are some springs. And on the top, what you want to do is put your oiler right inside here. You want to do about 1 drop at the top of the spring, and gravity will take its toll and work its way down. You will also want to do the other side of the head because there's some of the springs as well as the greasing points that you cannot get from one side. So what we do is we change the needle to needle number 1. And you'll see as it moves over, you can now access those points. So you'll want to put light grease at the top here and underneath here every 3 to 4 months, and then a drop of oil on those springs, 1 drop about every week. On the front of the machine, behind the take-up levers, you will see there are springs that need to be oiled. Just like the back, you want to do 1 drop of oil at the top of the spring about once a week. We're going to go ahead and zoom in, see if we can see that spring in there. And there's that spring right in here, and you'll just do it at the top of the spring, about a drop of oil once a week. At the back of the tubular arm, if you move the pantograph forward, you can actually see this plate, but you'll need to loosen the 4 screws. You can take off the plate, and you'll see a trimming cam right here. This cam also needs to be greased lightly about every 3 to 4 months. It's also very important to blow out any dust or debris that may fall on the head, especially in between the tensioners, the little discs. So as you blow that away with either canned air or an air compressor, you want to make sure that you do separate the discs and even get behind the discs. Here's at the top, and then at the bottom, you want to make sure that you kind of push it forward, as well as these felt pads underneath. You can get, like for example, the offset here, you can pull that up, hold it with that, and blow out that air. You want to make sure to keep that area clean, otherwise that will, it will give you problems with tension if you've got too much dust or debris in the back there. You know, you want to make sure to keep that head clean, just so you're not getting any discrepancies in tension. Another area to look out for as far as cleaning goes are the needles and the presser feet. A lot of times this will get a lot of dust in there, so you want to take your canned air and kind of blow it out. You can even take a rag and kind of wipe between or wipe behind the needle on that needle bar. You also want to make sure that if you are using any sticky spray, you could take a Q-tip and actually use hook wash on the Q-tip and wipe behind here, and that will help eliminate that adhesive.